global majority. So that would actually, if Trump does something like that, gets rid of Netanyahu and quietly continues the policies that have been ongoing for decades, that would actually run in line with what the establishment does want. Netanyahu's push for a greater Israel, the genocide, the invasion of Lebanon, the threats of war against Iran, I mean, all that stuff is deeply contradictory to what the deep state, what some in the deep state, the liberal establishment, actually want. But as a final point, the truth is that Donald Trump has appointed nothing but the most rabid Zionists, not even people who want the removal of Netanyahu, people who want unlimited aid to Israel, people who, have essentially tried to outlaw talking about Zionism in America, Kristi Noem, for example. People like Mike Huckabee, as the U.S. ambassador for Israel, who said that there is no such thing as Palestinians. People like Brian Hook, who's leading his State Department transition team, who were part of Mike Pompeo's maximum pressure campaign on Iran, who want war with Iran. And, we're talking about draining the swamp here. And I got so caught up in the breaking news with John Ratcliffe being appointed as CIA director, and the fact that this guy, he campaigned and lobbied for the continuation of warrantless spying on American citizens. And I was sitting here and I'm like, well, Kosh Patel would have been the better pick. But we're in such a different world. No, if someone really wants to drain the swamp, abolish the CIA, abolish all of these corrupt deep state organizations. That's what draining the swamp actually looks like. It doesn't say like, oh, we're going to keep all these institutions in place and then, maybe we'll have someone a little bit better in them. No, completely do away with them. The FBI was created to go after anti-imperialists, anti-interventionists, communists. It was created to propagandize the masses, completely abolish all these organizations. And by the way, what does draining the swamp really look like? Well, you can't drain the swamp unless you hold the treasonous scum accountable. Donald Trump is putting these people into his administration. There's debates over how bad they are. But if he really wanted to drain the swamp, what he would do is he would take each one of these treasonous people. He would hold public trials for treason for all of them. If treason was found to have been committed, well, the law will decide what happens to them. And if the law is benign and lenient, maybe they would be, and best case scenario, they'd be put into some sort of a forced labor to build an American-Russian world land bridge. But we're so in a different world talking about what drain the swamp actually means. It's not about choosing the least worst option. It's about completely and fundamentally changing the structure of government in this country.
And there was a recent case study of that. That's exactly what Nayib Bukele did within El Salvador. He just started over. He said there's too much corruption. You're all out, and just replaced the whole Congress, Senate with new members that were an average age of 31 that understood technology, made Bitcoin legal tender to try and take away the power from the central bank. Like that's a real drain.
Yes, 100%. The one thing that I do like that Trump is saying is he wants to cap interest rates. I think for credit companies at 10%, but we need that times like 1,000. We need complete debt jubilee in this country. Forgive all the debt. Let Wall Street go under, crumble, put them all in prison. That's what draining the swamp looks like. And you brought up Nayib Bukele in El Salvador. El Salvador had a very violent and actually satanic, a lot of them were Satanists, very, very violent, gang problem, narco gang problem. And what did Nayib Bukele do? He solved the problem by putting them all in prison and threatening to put anyone in prison who tried to defend them or was affiliated with them. America's got a deep state problem, And the solution, the only solution, there is no other solution than taking a lot of notes by from what Nayib Bukele so successfully achieved in El Salvador and bringing that to America, to the heart of the deep state. In fact, maybe just maybe issue an evacuation order for Washington, D.C., peacefully level the place and just like restart, build the capital somewhere else. And I think all of that combined would actually do a great deal in draining the swamp.
I'd like to give a quick pushback to the, getting rid of our institutions. I find that people always kind of go to where we should abolish the CIA and FBI. I'm actually not one of those. I say we should extract the foreign infiltration, the Israeli infiltration, yes, because like places like the ADL, they do train our FBI and things like that. So there's kind of like Jewish takeover of our systems. Yeah, I think that should be extracted. I personally think we should remove the Civil Rights Act and start really, looking at this thing for what it is and being very, very like real about it. But I think we should keep our institutions, remove people, start over again, maybe smaller, but I find that conservatives even say we should abolish universities, and I'm like, why? Just remove the Marxism from the universities, or whatever it is that you don't like, remove it from the universities. I don't believe in breaking every single thing up. Everything always has to be broken, even though we know the source of the issue. But okay.
Well, I'll just rebut one last time. Okay. So let's just say, even if there was Kaj Patel at the head of the CIA, okay, well, that's a political appointee. All you have to do is look at every single intelligence, program in human history, and understand that when a leader of a sovereign nation or empire, you can look to the Russian Empire, for example, tries to make a political appointee a loyalist at the head of their respective intelligence agencies, what ends up happening is that the careerist deep state shills manage to survive whatever sort of mass exodus takes place with this new political appointee, and they don't share information with that political appointee at the helm of the organization. They continue to operate either in private or without the knowledge of that person at the helm, and the situation persists as usual. As for your comment about Marxism in universities, the answer is not to remove Marxism in universities. We need actually much more Marxism, and we need orthodox Marxism. We need Stalinism. But,
as a black woman, I would say we absolutely don't. I've seen exactly what this has done to the country, and I would say that.
Well, as a white man, I say we do. So I would. Anyways, that's.
Zionists love Marxism. They invented it.
Well, it's not my fault that you're historically illiterate. Anyways, folks, that's all for tonight. Thank you for having me on.
Appreciate you coming on, Jackson. Guys, just as another piece, I really appreciate you coming on, Jackson, and do credit Jackson significantly in terms of pushing against war and advocating for peace. Another point I wanted to make before we jump right back into it, there's been a major interview, Dan Bilzerian on Piers Morgan. Piers Morgan is losing him and calling him a dirty, filthy anti-Semite, paraphrased. So I put a tweet in the net where I literally say that it's interesting that Piers Morgan is calling Dan Bilzerian an anti-Semite when he regularly has Douglas Murray on his show and never questions him, never calls him an Islamophobe, and yet Douglas Murray continuously attacks Muslims and Islam. That tells you his double standards. But we're going to be doing, hopefully, if we get a chance, a review on that interview on Kick after this. But yeah, fire on that. Let's get Ivy's thoughts. Ivy, jump in.
Can I just before we go to Brother Ivy, I said earlier that there was somebody on the panel who was like, oh, Julian Assange said that there was nothing on Trump and his administration. And I said, no, there was. And he said he'd seen videos where Julian Assange and WikiLeaks have said there was nothing. And I said, I'll read it out because I don't want to paraphrase it. So this is Julian Assange himself speaking at the Council of Europe in October 2024. And it was also shared by WikiLeaks, the official WikiLeaks page. And it says, I quote, "It is now a matter of public record that under Mike Pompeo's explicit direction," and this is Mike Pompeo serving with Donald Trump, his explicit direction, "the CIA drew up plans to kidnap and assassinate me within the Ecuadorian embassy in London." So that was what I was referring to. I hope the guy's still here listening. I wanted to come back with the actual statement. We are a very fact-based space. We don't do coffee shop talk here. Those are the rats along the corridor. But anyway, thank you.
Actually, Elise, I can read you that. So I know what he was talking about when people take... There was a meme that was circulating that said that Julian Assange never said there was not dirt on Trump when he was talking to Megyn Kelly. The meme itself is not factually correct, but the conversation did happen. And in that conversation, because I have it up, because I brought it up too, because I had a feeling that was going to get brought back up. So here's how it went down. So during the interview, Megyn Kelly says, quote, "I got to ask you about the U.S. election. As you point out, you're not an American citizen, you're Australian. You're clearly not rooting for Hillary, but are you rooting for Trump?" Assange answers, "No. If we have good information on Trump, we'll publish it. If we have good information on Hillary or the Democrats, we'll publish it." So the lack of him publishing it is the interpretation that it never existed. And then I can send you the link if you want to have that.
Yeah, please, because I do know there is stuff on WikiLeaks about Trump. I'm actually just looking it up now. Maybe we'll do a space on this, Alpha, actually, because I think it would be good. There's a lot of stuff on and I'm actually just looking at a fact check of what you're talking about as well. So yeah, for sure, please do send it to me, and we'll have a look at it. Thank you, Suleiman.
Thank you for that. Let's get Ivy in. Go ahead, Ivy, jump in.
Hey guys, long time no see. I've been craving a space, right, like a crackhead. I wanted to touch on a few points. Okay, first I want to say, like, Jackson hit an interesting point when he said that, well, the liberals are on Trump's side, that doesn't like Netanyahu. I think it's actually a coin toss what Trump actually does, because on one hand, I think the liberals being on the same side as him, it will, I think, has a chance to make him go aggressively against them, like to show that he's not on their side, and it makes it easier for him to run into the arms of like the neocons and stuff, right? So then he becomes more in favor of Netanyahu. The other way it could go is that he has this sort of streak in him that he's really desperate to get the approval of like the mainstream media, the Hollywood, all these things that he's always been a part of his entire life, which sort of excommunicated him after 2016. But before that, that was an integral part of his life, right? So he could double down on being against Netanyahu. So I think it's kind of a coin toss. But in terms of the other dude, the Trump supporter cope has reached levels unseen before. Last night, someone made it again to Nick Fuentes. He saw it, but last night I saw this guy literally saying that he's trying to put Rubio in as Secretary of State so he can fire him to get him out of the Senate. Like, come on, this is like what I said in the comments. Like, this is like the seventh, eighth dimension of chess the seventh or eighth dimension that he's added to his chess game. Like, what is this? He's not playing 15-dimensional chess. Enough of this already. Enough coping. I'm tired of it. I'm literally in a room whispering basically at my phone, but I had to come up and push back on this. Like, I've been hearing this. I've been shouted down every time I've tried to say this before the election, but it's totally correct that Trump was always going to be. He's always going to renege on all the promises he was making, and I think Simon said this is his final term. He's already in. Why is he doing this? he doesn't care. He doesn't want to govern. He's just doing whatever's going to be beneficial for him. And the last thing I want to say is, look, Jackson also said, the Draining the Swamp thing, bro, this is the second time he's going to be president, then the second time he's bringing the swamp monsters in. Like, just, like, don't forget this, okay? Marco Rubio is not just a neocon, basically, but that new generation of them, but he's also a Cuban American who's rabidly against the Castro regime, and he's going to turn Cuba into the next Haiti and have all of the Cubans at our doorstep, just like the Haitians are at our doorsteps right now that everyone's complaining about, right? And just so you know, it's not the white Cubans that are left in Cuba. It's the ones that MAGA's not so comfortable with.
Well, let's go to Ian. Jump in, Ian.
Yeah, and look, this is just going to be a quick one. But for those that might not be familiar with the Operation Q of yesteryear, I see a lot of similarities, and I speak about these in Solomon and Khaleesi Spaces when they're kind enough to let me, which is kind of the parallels of the modern world towards the Bolsheviks of Russia of about 120 years ago, 110 years ago, and of Weimar Germany, let's say 80 years ago, 90 years ago. And one of those eerie similarities is this whole idea of Operation Q, which for anybody that is not familiar, and I'm sure everybody on the panel is, but for anybody listening, if you're not familiar with Operation Trust from the Bolsheviks, I strongly recommend looking into it, because it was basically, and I'm not saying that Q is all LARP and all this other kind of stuff, because I don't have a personal opinion. I wouldn't put any personal credence into it, but I'm not going to take it away from it because I haven't studied enough. But Operation Trust was 100% a psychological operation against the Russian people to give them the assumption that somebody was coming to save the day. So they all kind of sat around passively expecting their white knight to come in and to protect them from the Bolsheviks, who were committing mass genocide on what ultimately became tens of millions of people. And I can't help but look at that and think to myself, the prior speaker who was talking about the third, fourth, fifth, seventh, eighth dimensions of 3D chess. I guess it's like 8D chess at this point. It feels to me, again, I don't know the details, so I'm not doubting it, but if I just look at parallels, that connection between the Q plan and Operation Trust, I think everybody in here that's listening, that's critically thinking, that's open-minded, take a look at the two, and maybe you'll think that I'm crazy, and if so, that's totally fine. But some of you might look at it and say, that is really unusual, because it really does feel like a similar playbook. So just wanted to toss that out there for you guys.
Appreciate that, Eamon. Let's go to Charlie. Charlie, jump in. Tell us why we should...
Everyone share the damn space. It's the first space back in a long time, guys. Get everyone in here. Bottom right-hand corner, purple pill button, guys. Retweet the space, quote tweet the space, leave comments, guys. Come on.
Appreciate that, Ivy. Doing the advertising as we always should. Love it. As with our boy Muffet. Charlie, jump in. Tell us why. There should be more war. Tell us.
No, I mean, I'm having a good week. It's all I'm going to say. I'm having a fucking good week, man. Listen, on a serious note, I'll try to keep it relatively serious. It was never going to go another way. So for anybody who's listening, or anybody who's listening to someone who said, oh, Trump's doing this, back in whether it's the first term or now, whether it's a Groyper person or anyone else, but really he's going to do this to turn around and fuck over the Jews or the Zionists, depending on what nomenclature you like to use. You should now...
Groyper didn't say that. The Groyper said the opposite. They said that don't vote for Trump because he is going to do...
They said it this time. They said it this time, but right back in 15 and 16, they were, or the precursor was going another way, and all the way through his first term. So if anybody who told you, and anybody, there's a few people on here on the panel who told you he's going to screw over the Zionists, right? It was never going to...
Yeah, the Groypers never said anything like that. The Groypers were...
Go, Charlie.
I'm just saying, people always look for the tinfoil hat things, right? When they miss the, like Orwell says, the thing that's right in front of their nose, right? Trump has always liked Jews and Israel. Trump will always like Jews and Israel, and Trump will govern according to that. Trump was never a pacifist. He is anti-stupid wars. That's true. But he believes, similar to Reagan, but not identical, but sort of similar, and he says it all the time, in all caps, peace through strength. He believes in big, beautiful militaries that intimidate other people, and he hopes that will deter others from starting shit, or that will stop shit, right? And it was pretty successful in his first term. He didn't, contrary to what some people say, it's not like he didn't engage in any war. Of course he did. But he was accurate when he said, I will not start any new wars, and he was accurate about that. He did, Putin did invade, for example, Putin did invade Ukraine during, the predecessor terms, and during Biden. He didn't during the 4 years of Trump. Trump is not a pacifist. Trump is not anti-war. He never has been. He's never pretended to be. Okay? He's anti-stupid wars. He's anti-nation building. He's anti-entanglement for the sake of entanglement. But he's pro-Israel, and he always has been. So the only thing I wanted to say is anybody who told you otherwise, don't believe them anymore. Anybody who believed otherwise themselves, don't trust yourself anymore, because your instincts are bad.
Suleiman, if I could just point out the fact that
you made some good comments there. I don't know if I disagree with. I don't know if I know he's a Zion now, but I don't know.
It's inarguable. What I'm saying is inarguable. You can like the policy, you can dislike the policy, but this was always what he was. He never hit it, and this is always what he will be, and he's going to be even more of it in the second term, not less.
I
More.
love it.
Just
So can you Charlie,
To deny
Yeah, I just want to say, Charlie, we don't like people dropping F-bombs on our space, and we definitely don't give any Zionists a pass on
That's
that.
fair.
Okay, so
It's
Just-
contradictory though. How
just-
can you say anti? Sorry, go ahead.
just a quick one. To be clear, I don't know if he was talking about me, but I was clear on this, that I wasn't supporting Trump. I just believe that Kamala had to be punished for her complicity in the genocide, and therefore people shouldn't vote for Kamala. So that was my position, not in terms of you should vote for Trump. I actually was saying, let's see what Trump does, and if he does anything negative, we'll call him out. But I know Charlie's made a strong point there, however. Charlie's made some
One
strong
last quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, that's super. I promise you, for 20 seconds. I did find it hilariously ironic that Trump received a plurality. I don't know if he received the majority, but a plurality, the most votes out of the Muslim population, especially in like hardcore places like Dearborn,
Yeah.
and also received a shitload of votes from specifically religious Jews. Like one of the reasons why he came.
Bro, the Jews voted for Kamala, didn't they? Come on, let's not pretend that.
No, I said from religious Jews.
Yeah, but 80% of Jews voted for Kamala, right?
It looks like it's
stand with Kamala. Come on, you know that, Shadi.
It looks like as the more detailed exit polls come in, and I'm being straight with you, it looks like it's going to be more like 60-40 or 60,
Bro,
in that range, yeah.
bro, the Jews stand with Kamala. Let's
I'm
not.
telling you no, bro. I'm telling you no.
Bro, the
I'm
Jews
telling
stand
you
with
no.
Kamala. You know it. I know it. We all know it.
Yeah, like half.
The Jews stand with Kamala.
Like half the people at certain synagogues with
Trump.
Trump.
Muslims in this election when we're Trump.
I just love it.
No. Charlie, you're right. Muslims in this election were with Trump, and the reason is, maybe you're right, he lied and manipulated and said that he's going to end the genocide in Gaza, he was going to bring peace to Gaza, and they specifically wanted to punish Kamala for her direct complicity in the genocide in Gaza. And the Jews, despite whatever the case is, stood with Kamala. So that's just interesting.
I'll send you. I'm not BSing here. I'll send you things. He had a massive increase overall. So that poll they were referring to was dead wrong. We're getting detailed now, like it's called voter track numbers from Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, like the hardcore
What's the
borough part.
overall Jewish vote?
We have to wait, but I'm gonna guess it's gonna be.
Don't guess.
We have to-
We don't like
we-
guesses.
no,
We don't like guesses,
But
Charlie.
not a guess. We do have detailed data from the most populous Jewish areas in America, right? Southern California, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and all those places show 40, which for the Jewish population is a lot. 40% plus voting for Trump, and the most religious places like Borough Park, New York, right?
So wait a second. So if you say
voted like 90-10 for Trump. So I just love that Muslims and Jews were coming together.
They were opposite sides again. They were on the opposite sides again. Muslims were for Trump and Jews were for Kamala. It's interesting though that the Jews don't vote for Trump.
Well, we don't have nationwide data. Hold on, we don't have nationwide data on Muslims. We know Michigan. We know Michigan, and we know Dearborn. We know some specific areas where there's a concentrated Muslim population.
Yeah, so from them areas, we know the Muslims. The majority of Muslims voted for Trump. The majority of Jews voted for Kamala. In terms of the actual percentage. In terms of actual percentage, we need to wait and see. But I think there's a more deeper question with that. Then, if the Jews don't vote for Trump, then why is this policy so pro-Jewish? That's an interesting point. It means he doesn't even get their vote. So there's something more deeper in there. There's something more powerful.
Well, first of all, they did vote for him more than anyone, probably since Reagan, maybe including him.
Like, how much are you gonna blag?
We'll find out. I don't know yet, but it was definitely a massive increase. And so that's number one. And number two, because there's 80 million evangelical Christians in America, and just even the nominal Republican voter and nominal independent voter tends to be more pro-Israel than pro-Hamas. It is what it is.
You mean pro-Palestine, but let's go to...
Isn't it funny that he shielded for the black vote and the Jewish vote and all these votes? The black vote did not go for him, even though he showed like crazy. The Jewish vote didn't go for him.
But he improved the black vote also.
Hold on, the Jewish vote didn't go for him either, even though he showed like crazy. But yet, he's only delivering for the Jewish vote, not for the black vote. But I just want to make it.
I want to hear from Alpha. One second, guys. I just want to hear from
You got a record of black men.
I want to say something directly to what he was saying. I had DM'd you about it, but like Alpha, you said. Sorry.
Now, one second. I want to go to Alpha. No, listen. 1 second. I just want to ask Alpha a question. Alpha, I think he's directly kind of contradicting your point. He's saying your guy is the most pro-war guy. He is pro-Israel. He is pro all these things. I think you've been arguing the opposite. What's your thoughts on what good old Charlie?
To be clear, I didn't say he's pro-war. I didn't say he's pro-war. I said he's pro-Israel, and he always has been, and he always will be. Yeah, that's what I said.
No, but you also said you also said that he's pro military strength. He's pro-war. He's just not against. He's just not for silly wars.
No, yeah, he's not. He's through peace, through strength. Like he literally says it in all caps for the last 10 years. Like.
Carly, stop doing semantics. Pro-Israel is pro-war.
Okay, well, he disagrees, and I disagree, and most people disagree. Most people think being pro-Palestine.
Only Zionists disagree. Most logical people know.
Let's go to Alpha, and then I want to go to Brother Omar, then go to Joe. We got the crew back. Go ahead, Alpha, jump in. I mean, he's kind of contradicting your point.
You know, everybody wants to laugh at conspiracies until they come true, and conspiracies have been winning the last 6-7 years. Here's what I'll say, is everybody wants to talk about removing the power of Israel from the United States government. You know, aside from the pro-Zionist people like AB that was talking right now, the vast majority of people that are recognizing are tired of it. If any president was to run on the ticket that they're going to do that, they would never make it to the primary, let alone the general. So, how do you do this? Well, how did Israel get into our government? Infiltration. Invasion and infiltration. That's how they got it. So if you wanted to remove their power and you know that you can't do it publicly, what is the only operational, tactical way that you could ever accomplish that? There's only one way to do it outside of nuking the area. And if you nuke the area, you're going to kill all the innocent people that a lot of you guys, support as well. So if you want to do it in a way, because here's the other thing. If you go and you just say, I'm going to remove these people from the cabinet, you're only president until 2028, and then they're going to come right back in and then re-put them back in. So the maneuver you have to make has to be a maneuver that's going to last longer than your presidency, which means you have to completely extract it all, and not just from the United States, from every country in the world that they have their claws into. The way you do that is you do it through an infiltration. And when you look at Trump is more popular with Israeli people than Bibi is with Israeli people. Now, Jackson Eagle created the scenario with this. Well, he kind of made it lose-lose for Trump. If Trump goes and he does something that removes Bibi out of office, well, that's because it's part of the plan. But then if Trump leaves Bibi in office, so he created the lose-lose scenario there for Trump, and I caught that. That said, my answer is kind of a question because it's still speculation on the stuff that we see. In 100 days, we're going to know, I think, the theme of where we're going. But in 6 months, if Trump has brought peace to the Palestinian region, he has not started any wars, he has not given Israel anything that they want. If all the things that you guys fear are going to happen. If we get to that 6-month window and it's not there, and it's the other stuff that us conspiracy theorists are saying, are you guys willing to shift your position? Because what I'm saying is if we get to that 1-year mark and Trump's not doing the stuff that we're saying, and it is the stuff that you guys are saying, I have no problem shifting positions, saying that we know how to shift. We need to change course here. But what I'm hearing from a lot of people is rhetoric that I want Trump to fail, not realizing the consequence that it is for America. And if it's a consequence for America, then it's going to be a global consequence, whether people want to recognize it or not. And what I'm saying is, when you look at it, because I did undercover work, that was the way I ended my career. And when you look at the stuff you have to do in that stuff for international crimes, for national crimes, statewide crimes, and local crime syndicates, exactly what you see Trump doing is the exact deployment of the way you do undercover operations. And I get it. Not everybody sees that and recognizes that. But what I'm telling you guys is, what point for you guys do you stop to drop your concerns and be like, okay, maybe these crazy people like Alpha were kind of right about what they were talking about?
Alpha, we'd absolutely love you to be right. If Trump can free America from Zionist control, if Trump can make directions towards ending the Fed, if Trump can make America first again, then we'll all be celebrating. He'll go down in history. He'll be the biggest legend that exists.
I appreciate that, Simon, because I know everybody just wants to say, I just want to see Israel collapse tomorrow. If Israel collapses tomorrow, America's devastated, because what a lot of Americans don't recognize is Israel's buried itself in our infrastructure. It's buried itself in it has the back door into literally everything. Country. Back door.
You're rubber banding Alpha.
Wow, that's Israel. That's Israel censoring Alpha right there. I think he was dropping some keys right there. They dropped him at the right moment.
So Marwan, really quickly, to play off of what Alpha was saying, and just respecting that, he's off. If he comes back in, I'll certainly just shut up. But I'm kind of curious. I think it is an interesting question, right? Like, if we accept that Israel is parasitic, let's just say, to the United States, but that there is this dynamic where the United States, I don't want to say success, but it's obviously compromised by financial interests, blackmail, bribery, etc. It goes back to the idea of the Samson option, which is basically that Israel, if threatened, will just take out the entire world. So I guess kind of just to throw out as like a question to everybody that's up here, what is the right way to celebrate or to hope for the end of this relationship, which obviously is toxic to the West, in a way that maybe you get rid of the parasite without destroying or damaging the host of the process? I'd be kind of curious for people's thoughts.
Yeah, while people answer that, like, my position is I just want peace. Like, I don't want people to die anymore. Like, it's just too much. That's the first step, anyway. Let me
clarify really briefly to Alpha, because I actually agree with part of what he said.
I just want to give some answers.
Come on.
Let's go to Brother Omar. It's been a while. How are you doing, Brother Omar? Then I'll go to Joy. I've not seen Joy in ages. Go ahead, Brother Omar.
Thanks, Sully. Hi, everyone. Look, I feel like people are overreacting to the cabinet picks so far. Because remember, this is Trump, and this is going to be a Trump administration. What that means is it's not going to be the status quo, like Biden administration or Obama's administration. And people will come and go, they'll be hired and they'll be fired. So I'm not taking this like the end of the world, I do think a lot of the people that are going to be hired in the initial days won't be there till the end. That's how I'm looking at it. And I think we do have to be cautious, and we do have to wait at least for the first 100 days to see what Trump has to offer, right? I'm not going to rule him out just as yet. And as far as Israel's influence is concerned, I don't think Trump is capable of decoupling United States involvement with Israel. And you know, it's not going to happen in the next 5 years or 4 years. It will
GOP
it took
has struggled to
generations
get
for
rid of the
Israel to
internal
embed
pedophiles and
itself in
rhinos.
American establishment and do what it currently does. It will take generations before this decoupling happens. So I'm not expecting Trump to be this revolutionary who's going to overnight, sort of resolve this issue of Zionist, controlling the American establishment. And also, it all comes down to money in politics, right? Whoever has the money, whoever writes the big checks, gets to dictate, the cabinet positions, the foreign policy. And we've seen people like, what's that woman's name? Miriam Adelson. She donated $100 million up to Trump campaigns. Of course, she's going to have influence, and other Zionists, Christian Zionists, form a large portion of Trump's base. They will have a say in it. So I don't see. Look, I'm not expecting Trump to end all the wars. Withdraw all American troops, and just be that that change. I don't think that's going to happen. What I do hope, though, is he will live up to some of his promises, which is put a leash on Bibi. Do something about it, because clearly Biden wasn't able to do it, right? Biden just failed at every level because I don't think Biden was even able to comprehend what was happening. It was Tony Blinken running the show, and Kamala was just cackling. That's what she was doing. So I hope, because Trump is not senile as Biden is, I do think he understands what needs to be done. I hope he would be able to at least put a leash on it, on that thing, Bibi. I also hope, look, I know Marco Rubio is he's a Russia and China hawk. I do think Trump is going to go hard against China, which I'm for, I hope he goes hard against China. Not that I hate China or anything. I just want that competition, because competition brings prosperity. So I want that competition because it's good for the Western civilization. But I also think Trump will be able to control the money that's going to Ukraine. Trump will be able to control the weapons that are being provided to Ukraine. And in the end, I think this war between Ukraine and Russia is going to conclude in Trump administration. That's how I'm feeling at the moment. Because already we can see Zelensky is panicking, the EU is panicking, and they're issuing statements, giving assurances to Zelensky that we will not leave. But rest assured, if America, pulls out from that whole Ukraine-Russia fiasco, then NATO will have to, back off, and Zelensky has to hand over the keys to Kiev, to Russia. So I hope that war will at least conclude. But as far as the Palestinians or the Middle East is concerned, I don't think Trump will be able to resolve all of that. But I'm also not looking at it as doom and gloom, because it's just the initial days, and I do think there will be a lot of people getting hired and fired. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Just sound like an Australian version of Alpha, literally.
No, I do agree with a lot of. I do agree with a lot of what Alpha said, except the part, initially, I wanted to push back on this, right? I don't think America really cares for its veterans or for its soldiers. They're just cannon fodder. I think at some point, Alpha mentioned that, if you attack American citizens or American soldiers, then, there is going to be a retaliation. Unfortunately, I don't think America cares all that much about American soldiers, because even when they, are home in America, the American veterans, there is this report that says since 9/11 to present, there were about 61,000 veterans who committed suicide. And I think there was a report in 2020 around that time that said 6,000 veterans in that year alone committed suicide, which was about 16 veterans dying a day by committing suicide. So I don't think America cares all that much about the soldiers. They're just cannon fodder for America. That's how. That's the feeling I get when I read all these reports. So I just wanted to point that out.
Guys, just a big one, and I want to go straight to my boy. That's right, Alpha. I'll go straight to you. Just need to do a bit of shilling. Alpha. You know how it is. You do your shows. You know what I'm talking about. The tweet in the nest. where I am. Damn, I might be giving away where I am. But it's 2:30, 3:30 Eastern, 8:30 UK. Bitcoin to 100 and move away from fiat and move away from fiat. Oh shit, it should be and towards peace, but anyway, not move away from peace. Anyway, Simon's gonna be there. Simon's gonna tell us how this big bad fiat currency controlled by the Zios is making.
You know, all of it is about the info war and your own health. So you need these products if you're buying it from anybody. But
here, I thought he was bankrupt.
Think about it, go ahead, Alpha.
Yeah, I'll make it fast. Speaking of which, still waiting for when you and Simon are going to come put your beautiful faces on my show so my audience can get a taste of what you guys got. So still waiting, man, still waiting. That said, to the gentleman,
I'm still waiting for the invite. That's the first invite.
well, I've been trying to pressure Maze to get you to snatch you up for me, Simon. To the gentleman that was speaking about the veterans, 50% right on that one. Our U.S. government absolutely does not care about veterans. The American people do, and it's the reason that our U.S. government knows how to weaponize mass casualty events where our veterans get hurt because they know that the opinion of America is going to get behind that. So that's, you know, the U.S. celebrity, all these things. So I agree with you on the fact that our government doesn't, but the people do. The other thing I want to rewind the clock back to, I think it might have been Ian that brought up Operation Trust with the Bolsheviks. And I see a lot of people trying to make correlations between that and Q, but there are some very distinct differences. The Bolshevik or Operation Trust was not to make people think that there was a false messiah. The Operation Trust was to get people that wanted to be part of this movement to get into. So then they knew who to arrest and to assassinate. So it was an entrapment. Q is completely different because it's decentralized. It's pushing people to information. So it's not bringing people in. It's actually pushing people out. And there's more, but I think that's the two biggest ones. The other thing that I wanted to say is I still wanted to get that answer from you guys on your guys' position. You know, if 6 months comes around and you haven't seen any of these concerns remotely even come close to coming to fruition, what is your guys' position in 6 months? Like, I'm really curious to what you guys are going to be thinking.
And let Joe go first on that. Joe, give us your thoughts and give Alpha your thoughts on what your thoughts are. I mean, you were someone who was anti-Trump, but that Bitcoin stuff got you on the Trump bandwagon and it's hit 90K. But anyway, go ahead, Joe. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, look, to think that either president is going to not help Israel is crazy. I don't think Trump's going to change his stance. I don't think Kamala would have been any better when it comes to it. But I do think that, and I know people are going to hate this, but I do think Trump is not as connected to how America works as the Republicans, as the Democrats were, right? I kind of look at the U.S. right now as three parties. You have Republican, Democrats, and MAGA. And Donald Trump is doing things that are kind of against America before the people because I think it benefits him. So this whole Bitcoin thing, for example, I think is amazing for the American people, right? If they get Bitcoin. I think it takes power away from America. You need Israel in order to control that the biggest shortcut in the world. You cannot be a superpower without having, I forget now what it's called, the lock to transport the boats. I forget what it's called at the moment. You need that to continue. Yeah, the canal in order to be a superpower, right? This is what I think this is all about, has been about. That's why America was against China, against Israel selling a port to China, so that China couldn't use it as easily, so China wouldn't be able to grow. But what happened under Trump? Under Trump, the amount of countries that applied for BRICS increased drastically, right? I don't think Trump understands that the reason why Russia needs that part of Ukraine is so they can use Crimea, because they need the water from Ukraine in order to have the ports, right? That port transport LNG. So they're trying to link up the Belt and Road Initiative. Trump is doing things in our favor, I think, without realizing that he is, which isn't positive for American power, right? It's positive for American people if they decide to listen to, Simon, who talks about it all the time about Bitcoin. I don't think Trump's going to change his stance on Israel. I mean, Mike Huckabee came on and basically there's 193 countries, 194 countries, I think, in the world. 192 of them call it occupied territory in Palestine. Mike Huckabee comes out and goes, it's not occupied, it's not called the West Bank, it's called Judea and Samaria. Here's the part that I really hope gets to AB and Charlie, and I think you'll remember, I've been saying this from the beginning, Charlie. What happened, for example, in Amsterdam? What you just did now when you're saying, no, majority of Jews voted for Trump. Well, we know that's not true. 64% of them voted for...
I didn't say the majority. Like, I was very clear and specific. I said it was a big increase, and I said we have to wait for the final detailed numbers, and that the vast majority of religious Jews, meaning people who take their religion seriously, voted for Trump. That's what I said. And we have detailed exit polling on that from like the most populous Jewish areas in America. Yeah. So.
AB, since the beginning, I've been saying the more Netanyahu lies, the more lies get spread, the more people are going to get mad, and ignorant people are going to target all Jews. Right? I believe that putting in Mike Pompeo, Huckabee, Mike Huckabee, he's already starting to lie, and he's not even in office yet. These things are what's going to get the world to hate Jews, and you guys keep supporting it. And I don't think you realize the damage that it's doing. It's not Hamas controlling media, making people hate the Jews. It's the fact that Israeli media keeps lying about every single subject that there is.
No, it's not. Hamas does. Hold on, Hamas. The Islamists, right, or you could call it, you could say the jihadists, whatever term you want to use, the resistance, if you're a fan of it, right, as one anchor. It's the Red Green Alliance. So in the West, it's the commies, the same people who support Black Lives Matter and transing the kids and open borders.
It's not the Jews.
It's the commies.
Jewish, Charlie.
But that's the Jews in it, Charlie.
It's the commie. Hold on. It's the commie Jews and it's the commie Catholics and it's the commie Mormons and whoever's a commie. Communism is its own. Communism is its own ideology.
That is disproportionately Jewish, though, right?
Listen, every movement, capitalism, communism, every intellectual movement is disproportionately Jewish. The ones you like and the ones that you hate, and that's a fact. But putting that aside,
that's a good answer.
No, it's the truth. It's the truth. But like putting that aside, that's what it is. It's the Red Green Alliance. So in the Muslim world, you have the Al Jazeeras of the world, right, pushing that line, and they're allied in the West. And this is a clear thing. You see it on campus. You see it on the streets. It is the Red Green Alliance. So in the West, it's the commies, right? But I'll tell you, as much as I hate any tumult, and I hated it with BLM when it had nothing to do with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict or anything else. It's gonna redound to our benefit, just like the BLM riots redounded to the benefit of sane people, because people they don't give a fuck if you're pro-Israel or pro-Palestinian or whatever. They don't want their lives disrupted and windows broken and old people harassed and people chased through the streets. Nobody who's normal, no matter what ideological side you are, likes that shit.
And Charlie, the fourth
Charlie did my finger.
In this central banking, that's a fact. Like the Bolsheviks was the infiltration of capitalist Russia to turn it into communism. And
Simon, you're one trick point. I'm okay with abolishing the central bank or keeping it, but it has nothing to do with what we're talking about, though.
Capitalism requires hard money, and Zionists hate hard money. They love crony capitalism, where you can create a rigged Ponzi scheme where capitalism gets infiltrated into socialism, and you think that it's capitalism, and you end up with this ginormous central bank that's funding wars and making a ginormous government that ends up communist. But
when there was hard money, wars occurred. Simon, lots of massive wars occurred when there was hard money too. So it's an interesting conversation, which I'm happy to have. We can talk about Ludwig von Mises and Murray Rothbard, and let's get into it in another space. It has nothing to do with my point, though. Yeah, it has nothing to do with what we're talking
Let me
about.
go back to what I was talking about, because honestly, I do think it's a problem. I think Trump won because the American people are tired of being lied to, right? I think people are getting tired and starting to target Jews because they're tired of getting lied to. And that's the issue, is if it continues to be like this, you are going to have a serious problem. And I've been saying this since day one. I said, as soon as the war started, the very first month, I go, anti-Semitism is going to rise like crazy because they're lying to people, and it's Netanyahu's fault. And everyone came out from your side, Andy, and said, you're crazy, it's Hamas that's doing it. How is Hamas influencing the world to become anti-Semitic? That's not what's happening. They don't hear Hamas. They hear the news.
I mean, they literally listen. The people rioting, for the most part, certainly the ones in Europe, are Muslim immigrants, right? And again, they're allied with